In this video, I would like to share some of the things which are dearest and most precious to me, namely my books. I know myself to be the negative in Hegel's system, and I have the belief that the positive must come out of the negative, and the first step towards bringing positivity into the world is to share knowledge and to enlighten others and to abandon what is dearest to me in order to hopefully gain a higher perspective. And the way I envision being, I am a product of being. I am a product of my biology, the cultural era in which I live. I am a product of my psychology. I am a product of world history. I am a product of my environment, and I understand from an abstract standpoint that I can only liberate myself from the bondage of human existence by acting in such a way that my environment becomes a product of me, and to accept the dark and negative aspects of being. And the first step towards liberating myself is to accept, to share parts of my knowledge with the followers of this channel. And I will begin by recommending 6 books. The first one, which is really important, is How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler, which is a man for which I have infinite admiration because he was a very intelligent and profound man, and he was kind. He shared his knowledge with a broad audience. He was a really educated Western American man, and the book may seem easy at first, but it contains very deep ideas, and I recommend, if you have the time, the money, the opportunity, to buy the book and to meditate upon it, and it will be a very useful, very profound book, and it has helped me greatly in my intellectual journey. So this is a book which is the beginning of the reading of all other books. I wish that I had followed these pieces of advice more rigorously, but yeah, so that's the first book. Another book, which is one of the books which has influenced me the most, and in which I have understood and recognized many ideas, and I have already shared this book, it's Hegel and the Hermetic Tradition. And the main idea is that Hegel was an esoteric, religious, hermetic, alchemical, magical thinker, and it is the condensation, the bringing together of all the esoteric tradition and the philosophy of Hegel. And it is a moment in the process of Hegel becoming intelligible to mankind, and it is a very important book, and I draw most of my inspiration from this book because it contains very profound idea. And there's a quote in the book which says that in the philosophy of Jakob Böhm, who inspired Hegel, the eternal free will has introduced itself into darkness, pain, and source, and so also through the darkness into the fire and light, even into a kingdom of joy, in order that the nothing might be known in the something. And I wonder if this might be the primordial definition of God. That what if God was this eternal free will, um, extracting itself out of its own nothingness and bringing forth the whole of creation. So that's a very important book. Another book which has been extremely influential to me because it depicts the image of a man, Philip K. Dick, for which again I have infinite admiration and love, although I cannot share this love with him because he's no longer among us. But he made an experience of being God and questioning himself. And this book, The Exegesis, is one of the most profound and fascinating and amazing books ever written, and it contains some of the most amazing ideas that I have uh, ever contemplated. I would like to say that Philip K. Dick is the man that I have loved the most. My love for Philip K. Dick is infinite. It's more than infinite because he's the one I identified with the most, because he had an experience of the divine being lost and searching for himself and for understanding and doubting, and the vision of a God who doubts himself and questions himself is scary and reassuring at the same time, because yeah, so this is a very important book, and I would like to share it with others. And then, of course, the books by Hegel, the Phenomenology of Spirits, or Phenomenology of Mind, which can be found on the website marxist.org. I will put the link. Then there's Hegel's Logic, and then there's the Encyclopedia of the Philosophical Sciences, and also an important book by Hegel, which has helped me a great deal, is the Propedeutic, the Philosophical Propedeutics, which is Hegel's philosophy made intelligible and easy for a beginner's class, and it can also be found, I think, on marxist.org, so I'll put the link. And these are the books which have influenced me the most, and I try on this channel to comment the passages that I understand from these books. So if you want to buy these books, if you have the possibility or the time or the money or the opportunity to buy these books, and if you find them interesting, you will find on my channel an exegesis of the passages that I understand. And now I will share with the world the structure of my bookshelves, because I live in a small apartment full of books, and I've tried to order these books according to a logical and encyclopedic structure, which I am not sure reflects the structure of being. But even if it was wrong, and it's probably wrong, the error in my mental outlook on the world would still be part of the process of the whole of being becoming conscious of itself. So here's the structure of my personal library by topics. I begin with books on language and philosophy. For instance, how to read a book. Books which mix together thoughts about the relationship between language and logic, philosophy and language. That's the most important. Then I have dozens of books about philosophy. I have most of the greatest minds of the history of philosophy, from the pre-Socratics to Slavoj Zizek, with almost all of them. I have not Kant, the French positivist. I have not many thinkers of the Middle Ages. The deconstructionists, Derrida, Foucault, I don't have. But other than that, I possess books about almost all the greatest philosophers in the history of Western philosophy, before Hegel and after Hegel. Then I have books which are commentators of Hegel's work, comments of Hegel. And one of the key ideas of cultural Hegelianism is that the process of interpreting Hegel is a logical moment in the process of understanding Hegel. So I believe that there is a rationality, a chronological and logical rationality at work within the process of commentators and interpreters writing books about Hegel. So I have many books about how to understand Hegel. And then I have books which are comments and interpretations about other philosophers, or books about philosophy not written by acknowledged philosophers as such. So yeah. Then I have books about formal logic, symbolic logic, classical logic. I want to understand the relationship between speculative logic and formal abstract logic. Then I have books about mathematics, and we are following a logical structure partly. So language and philosophy, formal logic, mathematics. Then I have books about physics, classical and modern, chemistry, biology, sociobiology and evolutionary psychology. Then books about education and the educational system. The JQ, I have many books about the JQ. Books about women, the psyche, the biology, the culture, the mind of women. Books about money, the monetary question, finance, debt, the banking system. Books about economics from left and right perspective. Books about politics, mostly conservative, right-wing, libertarian, but also classical political philosophy. Books about technology, transhumanism, the singularity, the development of technological inventions. Then I have books about ecology. The structure is not very clear, but there's a trend. Ecology and radical leftism, in sense of ecological leftism and anarcho-leftism. Then I have books about a leftist view on politics and society, because in my intellectual development I have started by adopting a right-wing negative view, and it's only later that I have understood that in order to have a clear understanding of reality, one has to adopt both viewpoints. So I have books about the leftist perspective. Then I have the CIA fact book, which is an incredible amount of quantitative data and statistics about the world. It can be helpful. Then I have books about geopolitics. And then the beginning of my intellectual journey, in a way, I have books about a mixture of all these elements, which in Hegel's system are subjective and objective spirit, namely determinations of psychology, but also economics, sociology, law, anthropology, demographics, and here I've mostly conservative and patriotic views and critiques of the decay of the modern West, with immigration, the left, the media. So yeah. Then a more negative and radical view, I have lots of books about white nationalism and race, racial perspectives. I have two moments of race in my library or my bookshelves. I have the scientific race realist modern view, and I have a more radical view of classical racialist writers, which could be considered racist by modern standards, but it's part of my intellectual development, and they have um, enabled me to arrive at the understanding that I have now. Then I have books in the logical continuity of European identity. So for me, there's a distinction between white identity and European identity. European identity adds a cultural, spiritual aspect to just white identity. Then I have books about history. I have many books about the history of mostly Western civilization, but also non-Western civilization, and they are interconnected relationship anyway. So I have many books about history, and I have a collection of 30 books which trace the history of the greatest civilization from ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, Sumeria, Babylonia, ancient Greece, Rome, the Middle Ages, the Byzantine Empire, the Islamic civilization, Russia and China, the pre-Columbian civilization, the Renaissance, the High Middle Ages and the Low Middle Ages, the Renaissance, the Classical Age, the Age of Enlightenment, the 19th century, and up to the 20th century and the end of World War II. So I am broadly I'm not a specialist, but I have a broad view of the development of world history from the perspective of the West, although it includes non-Western civilizations, but I am almost completely ignorant of the history of Australia and Africa before European colonization and pre-Columbian civilization and the primitive peoples of Siberia and the Inuit. I don't know anything about these people. Then I have 3 books which are so I have books about history and about historiography, the conceptual understanding of history. And also I have books by Charles Murray and Michael Hart, which list and gather all the human accomplishments. The 100 by Michael Hart, the 100 most influential persons in history according to him. It could be debated, but it's better to have at least one point of view so you can shape and change eventually. And Human Accomplishment by Charles Murray. Then I have a book about art. That's the structure of Hegel's encyclopedia. We've just been through objective spirit, so to speak. Now it's absolute spirit. So I have books about art, sculpture, architecture, music. And then many books about esotericism, mysticism, religion. I have the great books of most world's religion, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, Hindu religion, and paganism. I have many books about the pagan religion of Europeans. Finally, I have almost all the works from Julius Evola, because cultural Hegelianism includes within itself the Evolian moment as a religious moment. And then we go back to philosophy. It's a self-enclosing circle, and we go back to the start. And the more the process of this logical circle understands itself, the more it has to structure and order and rationalize and conceptualize itself and bring more and more order and clarity and transform the empirical reception of knowledge into a self-building, self-creating, self-organizing system of knowledge. And so that's in the broad outlines how my intellectual life has been shaped and structured, and it is a reflection of the process of world spirit becoming conscious of itself. And as the negative within this process, I must negate myself and share knowledge with others so that they might be enlightened, and so that we might reciprocally enlighten one another, hopefully. And I would like to end in a very culturally Hegelian mood by quoting the song by Pokemon. I made a video to explain that Pokemon is Hegelian logic made intelligible for children. I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. I will travel across the land. I gotta catch them all. All concepts, not all Pokemons. This is just an image, but I have to grasp the whole of knowledge. It's probably Spirit talking to himself. You're my best friend in a world we must defend. Hopefully our courage will pull us through. Hopefully I will find courage within me. You teach me and I teach you. So I shared what I could with the viewers of this channel, and now your role is to self-organize in a logical and rational structure your own knowledge and your own perspective on the world and your own view of the world. And this process of reciprocal rational enlightenment is probably the reason why God created the world, to have a full understanding of himself and to see himself reflected in the mind of others, which are his own mirrors. So yeah.